Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Liana. Today I'm continuing my review and a look series for Studio Ghibli. Today's feature film is My Neighbor Totoro. This is Totoro here. I also have Totoro on my shirt. You can't see it right now, it's kind of cut off by the camera, but yes, I love Totoro. Totoro is a 1988 feature film by Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki. It's also the very first Studio Ghibli movie that I've ever seen. In fact, it's the very first anime I've ever seen. I was about 4 years old when I first saw it. My brother and I used to rent it from Blockbuster. We would watch it over and over and over and over and over. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie. I've lost track. So it's not only one of my favorite Studio Ghibli movies, but it is just an excellent film on its own. So My Neighbor Totoro actually released in 1988 at the same time as Grave of the Fireflies, and that was the first year that Studio Ghibli released two movies back to back, and they were by two different directors. So this movie was by Hayao Miyazaki, Grave of the Fireflies was by Isao Takahata, who is sadly no longer with us. So today I'm talking about Totoro, and in my next video I'll be tackling Grave of the Fireflies. Now, My Neighbor Totoro is, of course, about two sisters named Satsuki and Mei. Satsuki is the older sister, Mei is the younger sister, and they're moving out to the countryside with their father to be closer to their mother, who is in hospice care. Now, it's never said in the movie what exactly their mother is ailing from, but throughout the years, a lot of people have said that it's likely tuberculosis, just because that's kind of fitting for the time frame the movie takes place in. And so they move into this pretty old house on a great big property in the countryside, and when they move into the house they kind of get the sense that it might be kind of haunted, and indeed they can sense presence of soot sprites, and there is a giant forest spirit named Totoro on the property, and he's the guardian forest spirit. He looks after all of the forest and the land nearby. So as I said, this is a movie that's very close to me, but it is just a really great movie overall. I remember when I was younger, this kind of started my childhood fascination with attics with stairs leading up to them. I was always kind of looking around the house for attics and hidden staircases. There was this movie in Princess and the Goblin that kind of started me searching around houses for little hidden corridors and places that nobody else could see. Because Mei, being the younger sister, she likes to wander off, and she finds kind of a hidden area in the forest that nobody else seems to be able to see, and that's where she finds the Totoro. This guy here. But this movie is very magical. It also has a lot of serious tones to it. It deals with kind of coping and grief, particularly through the lens of two younger children. Of course, their mother is sick, and for two younger girls not having a mother in the house, they have their father there, but their father works from home, and sometimes he works at the university. It's hard for them. So Satsuki, she's probably about 12 years old. She's kind of taken up the mantle of mother of the household, and that's hard for her. She's looking after Mei as a sort of stand-in mother, and Mei, being only 4 years old, not having a mother there all the time is very hard for her in particular. So we kind of see how they're learning to deal with things and trying to be strong when their mom isn't there. And so Totoro kind of appears to them when he is needed the most. And you could kind of, I guess, in a way perceive it as that is their coping mechanism. Maybe he isn't really there. I believe he is there, and that he is just their guardian. He's not just the guardian of the forest, he is also a guardian to the girls. So I do think that this movie kind of has definitely a whimsical element throughout. It is quite bright and cheerful just in the presentation of the movie. It's very bright and colorful. The music's very cheerful, but it does have just sort of those more emotional themes throughout, which I think is very on point with Studio Ghibli as a whole. It likes to discover things that are magical, but things that are also closer to reality. One thing that is interesting to note, I have seen all of the Studio Ghibli movies in both English and Japanese. This movie in particular has 2 English dubs as well as the Japanese version. Because of the reason for this is because initially Fox had the rights to Totoro before Disney did. It was sometime in the late 90s or early 2000s, I believe, when Studio Ghibli signed a contract with Disney. So all of the releases after that went through Disney. So there's a Fox dub from the early 90s. That's the one I grew up with. And to me, it's the superior one, but of course I'm biased. That's the one I heard first and heard the most. The Disney one features the Fanning sisters, Dakota and Elle Fanning as the 2 sisters in the movie. But there are some pretty big differences between the Japanese version and the English version. Totoro himself actually sounds different, but more so I feel like the Japanese version is just a little bit more emotional. For example, I find that when I'm watching the movie in English, I don't feel like crying. When I watch it in Japanese, there's something about the delivery of certain lines and the way that they're translated. It hits a little bit closer to home, and it is more emotional to me. So you might want to consider that when you are looking at what version you want to watch. Because usually they're pretty close translations. They're pretty good with that, but this time it's kind of worth noting that. So enough rambling from me. Of course, you know how much I love Totoro by this point. If you want to see how I got this look, which is inspired by the poster, then just keep watching. I'm starting off this look with a matte, very cool toned blue through the crease using a big fluffy brush. I'm also going to use circular motions to bring that down onto the outer corner of my lid. On the rest of my lid, I'm going to take this very bright green, which is kind of a matte yellow toned green, and just use a packing brush for that. To make sure those 2 shades get blended in together, I'm going to use a smaller blending brush and go back through the crease. Green and blue blend really well together, so it'll just kind of create a nice shade. And I'm also going to put a little bit more blue on the outer corner. On the lower lash line, I'm going to take a matte gray and just use a smaller brush to swipe that along. I'm going to take this metallic yellow shade and buff that onto the inner corner, and really everywhere where there's space on the inner corner. So a little bit on the inner lower lash line, a little bit on the inner lid, everywhere where there's a little bit of space for it. For the brow bone, I'm going to take this blue duochrome shade. For eyeliner, I'm going to take a white liquid eyeliner today, and I'm going to draw a wing with that. So I'm just going to take my time with that and build that up, because white eyeliners can tend to be very thin and finicky. And to finish the eyes, I'm just going to take a single coat of black mascara. And this is what the eyes look like when everything is finished up close. To finish the rest of the face, I'm going to start with blush. This is a cream blush that is supposed to be coral. It's really more of a pink, and I'm just going to use a brush to put that on. And finally for lips, I'm going to take this nude pink lip gloss. And this is the completed look. So that's my review and a look for Studio Ghibli's My Neighbor Totoro. Next time we'll be doing Grave of the Fireflies, which is the first movie by Isao Takahata. I hope you stay tuned. You can click below if you would like to subscribe, and if you don't want to, that's okay. And I hope to see you soon. Stay safe, stay well. Bye everyone.